Welcome to Learning with UNP. In this session of Python for Data Science, we are going to understand about variables, assignment operators, and naming convention. That includes how to create a variable, what is variable assignment, declaration and initialization of variables, what are the rules to be followed to create a variable, redeclaration of variables, multiple assignment, and finally naming convention. Let's begin with understanding what is variable. Variable is used to store data in Python. Variable is a reserved memory location to store values. Variables are assigned with values using equals to symbol, which is called as assignment operator. Here is an example. X is equal to 5, in which X is a variable with a value 5 assigned to it. Now let's understand about variable assignment. Variable assignment in Python is the process of allocating a name, that is a variable with a value. In simple terms, it's the process of assigning value to a variable, means to symbolically associate a specific piece of information with a name. Variable assignment allows you to store and manipulate data, making your code more flexible and dynamic. In Python, variables are not explicitly declared with a data type, meaning when you create a variable without specifying its type, the computer figures out what type of data it is based on what you put in it. If you put in a number, it becomes a number variable. If you put in words, it becomes a text, and so on. It's like the variable adapts to whatever you put inside it. The most important point to be noted here is the process of specifying the variable type before it may be assigned to a value is known as variable declaration. But in Python, we don't declare variables, we simply assign them. Now let's understand about initialization of variables. Assigning an initial value to a variable is called initializing the variable. As soon as we set a variable equal to a value, we initialize or create the variable, as you can see here. Once we have done that, we are set to use the variable instead of the values we use. As we already know that in Python, variables do not need explicit declaration prior to use like some other programming languages. You can start using the variable right away. Now, let's understand the syntax of variable assignment. It's pretty simple and straightforward. As you can see on the screen, you simply write the variable name on the left side of assignment operator, that is equals to symbol, and the value on the right side. Now, let's look at the rules to create a variable. The first rule is variable names can contain letters, digits, and underscore. Second rule is the first character of a variable cannot be a digit. Third rule is variable names are case sensitive, meaning capital letters and small letters are considered different. And the last rule is avoid using keywords, meaning it's important not to use words that Python already used for special purposes or uses for special purposes as variable names. This is because Python might get confused if you use its reserved words for your own variables. Now, let's understand the pseudocode representation of it. Let's check this out now. Step 1. Decide on a name for your variable, which means choose a word that represents what you want to store. Step 2. Write the chosen name followed by an equals sign, which means after the name, put an equal sign to show you're giving it a value. Step 3. Decide what value you want to assign to the variable, which means Decide what information you want to put into the variable. Step 4. Write the value after equal sign, which means after the equal sign, write down the information you choose. Step 5. Ensure the value matches the type of data you intend to store, which means make sure that the information you are putting in matches what the variable is supposed to hold, like a number, text, etc. Let's now understand the process of assigning using a flowchart. Before that, let me give you an overview of what is a flowchart. A flowchart is a type of diagram that represents an algorithm, workflow, or process. The flowchart shows the steps as boxes of various kinds and their order by connecting the boxes with arrows. The rounded rectangles or terminal points indicate the flowchart's starting and ending points. A connector symbol, which is a circle with a letter or number inside it, represents the flow through multiple charts or pages. It allows you to connect two flowcharts or symbols in the same page. Lines and arrows show the sequence of the steps and the relationships among them. Let's look at an example of flowchart shown here. We first start the process. We assign an integer variable I to a variable students in classroom. The instruction line, that is students in classroom, is I, where the value of variable I is taken as 100 here. Now the input is given as input is equal to 100 at input underscore 1, which is the result of first instruction as instructed above, which becomes I is equal to 100. Now the variable I is assigned to integer variable, that is students in classroom, and this variable's value now becomes 100 as the result of second instruction. It now prints the result and finally ends the process. Let's now look at few examples of variable assignment in which various variables such as age, height, name, student, sum result, A, B are assigned different values and of different types such as 25, which is an integer, 5.9, which is a float value, John Doe, which is a string, and true, which is a boolean value, etc. We will discuss about the types of data or data type in coming sessions. Now let's look at redeclaration of variables. One of the significant feature of Python is its dynamic typing, which means you can reassign variables to different types of data without explicitly declaring their type. Since we explicitly do not declare variables gradually, no redeclaration explicitly, we call it as dynamic typing rather than redeclaration. Let's understand it better using an example. X variable is assigned value 10. Print X prints the output as 10. Now we are again assigning the value hello to the variable X and printing the output. And now the output is hello. Let's look at another example and execute it. X variable is first assigned a value 10 and is printed. Again, the variable X is assigned a value string and is printed. Let's run this code and see the output. The output is 10 and string. Let's understand about the concept swapping variables. It is the process of swapping two variables or mutually exchanging the values of the variables. Python allows you to swap the values of two variables easily without using a temporary variable. Now, you all might think that what is a temporary variable? Temporary variable is a variable with short lifetime, usually to hold data that will soon be discarded or before it can be placed at a more permanent memory location. Let's look at an example of swapping variables. Here, a is equal to 5, which means a is assigned the value of 5 and b gets the value 10. A comma b equals to b comma a. This line swaps the values of a and b. It's like saying let A be B and B be A. Print A, this prints the value of A which has been swapped to 10. Print B, similarly, this prints the value of B which has been swapped to 5. Let's now look at multiple assignment. Python allows you to assign multiple variables in a single line by separating them with commas. This is known as multiple assignment. Here is an example depicting multiple assignments, where x, y, z are three variables to which 10, 20, 30 are assigned. Furthermore, let's understand about the topic keywords. As I already mentioned about keywords at the beginning of the video, in Python, keywords are reserved words that have special meanings and purposes in language. These cannot be used as identifiers such as variable name, function name, etc. because Python assigns specific functionalities to them. Keywords play a vital role in defining syntax and structure of the language. The most common Python keywords are false, class, finally, break, except, in, raise, etc. Finally, let's understand about naming convention. Naming convention are the guidelines for how to name variables, constants, and other identifiers in your code. Consistently following naming conventions makes your code more readable and understandable to others and your future purpose. There are few types in naming conventions. They are variables, constants, etc. In variable type, a variable is a placeholder for storing data in computer program. It refers to the practice of naming variables in a consistent and meaningful manner. It has name like variable name and can hold different values during the execution of the program. Typically, variable names are written in lowercase letters with words separated by underscores. Let's look at the pseudocode representation of variables. Step 1. Decide on a variable name like my variable, which means choose a name for your variable. Step 2. Write my variable equals to followed by the assigned value, which means assign a value to it using equals to, that is assignment operator. Step 3. Use my variable wherever you need to reference the value, which means use the variable whenever you need to refer it to the value. Example goes like this. Here we are creating a variable called my underscore variable and giving it a value 42. Then you are printing the value stored in my variable, which is 42. Let's execute this and the output is 42. Now let's understand about constant type naming convention. Constant type naming convention involves naming constants. Constant is a value that does not change during the execution of the program. It is typically assigned a name written in all uppercase letters with underscore between words. Constants are used to represent fixed values that remain consistent throughout the code. Let's look at the pseudocode representation of it. Step 1. Decide on a constant name like pi, which means choose a name for your constant like pi. Step 2. Write pi equals to followed by the assigned value, which means assign a value to it using equals to. Step 3. Use pi wherever you need its value, which means use the constant pi whenever you need its value. Here is an example of it. You are setting a constant called pi to the value 3.14159. Then we are printing the value of pi, which is 3.14159. Let's execute this. And the output is 3.14159. This is all about today's lecture. See you in the next lecture. Thank you.